Hello and welcome to MindShifters Radio. I'm Tim Hayes. I'm your host for the first hour. And today is Monday, June 7th, 2021. As always, we're grateful to everyone who's joining us here today, whether you're listening live or in the archives, as we spend another couple of hours teaching and supporting people in using some of the most powerful, effective, efficient, and accessible tools I've ever discovered for improving the quality of our lives and relationships and managing our emotions. These tools are available absolutely free at whyagain.org. If you go to that website and click on the red and white bullseye, or I guess it's better to say, click on the link in the upper left-hand corner of most pages. It says Start Here. It'll take you to a page where you can download and read Chapter 24 of Dr. Michael Rice's book. The book is titled, Why Is This Happening to Me Again? And that chapter of that book contains a narrative description of the primary tool in this work. That tool is called the Reality Management Worksheet, sometimes called the Reality Management Wake-Up Sheet. And it's a tool I've been using to great effect for the past 17 years to improve the quality of my life and relationships and effectively turn any negative emotional experience I have into part of that infallible guidance system that every one of us has been gifted. You can also download the actual tool off of that page. You can download a whole history. There's a plan behind appearances that does not change. The script is written, and when experience will come to end, your doubt has been set. For we but see the journey from the point at which it ended, looking back on it, imagining we make it once again, reviewing mentally what has gone by. So, in essence, time is an illusion. Your true nature has always been and will always be your true nature. You remain as you were created to be, and as so many of these spiritual traditions tell us, in a way that the Western mind seems to think it's gibberish, when you reach your destination, you will realize you've never gone anywhere, that the truth of who you are is the source and is the beginning point and the ending point for any journey. It goes on, a teacher does not give experience because he did not learn it. It revealed itself to him at its appointed time. But vision is his gift. This he can give directly. For Christ's knowledge is not lost, because he has a vision he can give to anyone who asks. The Creator's will and his will are joined in knowledge, yet there is a vision which the Holy Spirit sees because the Christ mind beholds it too. This can be taught and must be taught by all who would achieve it. It acquires but the recognition that the world cannot give anything that can faintly compare with this in value. All right, so thus do we learn to give as we receive, and thus Christ's vision looks on you as well. This lesson is not difficult to learn if you remember, in your brother you see yourself. If he be lost in sin, so must you be. And sin is this faulty perception. It's not that you've done something that makes you less valuable. If you see light in your brother and sister, your sins have been forgiven of yourself. Each brother whom you meet today provides another chance to let Christ's vision shine on you and offer you the peace of God. It matters not what revelation comes, for that is not of time. Yet time has still one gift to give in which true knowledge is reflected in a way so accurate its image shares its unseen holiness. Its likeness shines with immortal love. We practice seeing with the eyes of Christ today, and by the holy gifts we give, Christ's vision looks upon ourselves as well. So when you can see your true nature and you see that true nature in others, it is that sight that is the gift. You don't give the experience, you give the ability to see the truth is true. You give the ability to see that you are a part of the one mind, and so is everyone and everything that you interact with. Lesson 158 in the Course in Miracles experiment by Pam Grout is titled, Identity is Provisional. She quotes John O'Donohue as saying, everyone is involved, whether they like it or not, in the construction of their world. Pam writes, the conceit of our culture is that each of us is a separate individual, fist-fighting for our life, karate chopping our way through our 70 or 80 or even 25 years on the planet. We reduce big issues down to separate entities. We blame that guy over there. It's him or her causing all the problems. If only they would shape up. But each individual, each germ, each problem is part of the big soup connected to all. And as long as narcissism and selfishness and other problems exist, we must recognize that each of us is a piece of minestrone or a chopped onion contributing to the broth. By casting blame on the, quote, other, close quotes, we actually co-sponsor the problem. We're in on the conspiracy. The Course in Miracles teaches me to think of myself as a verb, as a wave of the ocean, temporarily doing this or that. I am not a body, but rather a continually changing wave contributing to the whole. Lesson 158, today I learned to give as I receive, asks me to repudiate the version of myself, anybody else, as a separate collection of static molecules. I am asked to behold a light beyond the body, beyond what can be touched. Today I greet each person as the light he or she is, no matter what form, no matter what mistakes. As I bestow the store of miracles that are mine to give, I re-engineer a new reality that is expansive, unlimited, and inclusive of everyone. So that's our Course in Miracles lesson for today. Today I learn to give as I receive. And what I give, true sight, the ability to see my true nature as the extension of love and form, and the true nature of everyone and everything I interact with as that same light energy, that same extension of the creative energy in form. So our call-in number is 563-999-3581. And if you call that number and press 1, we can have a conversation. What's on your mind today? How was your weekend? What is bubbling to the surface in terms of issues that you might want to discuss, or worksheets you've done, or targeted journaling has revealed something intense for you to deal with? 563-999-3581. How is your Monday? I was listening to some of Adyashanti over the weekend, and I was struck by how if you change just a couple of words, and Adyashanti is the name of a gentleman who's born in the West but studied with a Buddhist teacher and changed his name. So very Buddhist teachings, but if you change but just a couple of words, the core could be a Byron Katie talk. And the essence, the core essence of this and so many other great spiritual teachings is we are creating the vast majority of our suffering because we're rejecting the truth of what is. We don't suffer because we have pain. We can experience pain as a sensation that will come and that will go. But we suffer when we don't want the pain with ourselves. This is very much like the primary theme of the book, The Untethered Soul, with Michael Singer. In the first part of that book, he talks about how most of us have such a, please stick around and or go call a friend and say, hey, Michael and Jeannie are going to do another hour. And Michael's working his way through the book, Why Again? Why is this happening to me again? And we'll be back again tomorrow to do another Course in Miracles lesson and Pam Grout supplement to the Course in Miracles experiment book. And I'll just put out one more call for you to give us your comments or questions. You can email Jeannie at jeanie@yagain.org, or you can email me at tjh@mindshifters-academy.org. And if you're listening to us on the archives and you submit a question, we will do our best to answer that on air. And then I just noticed that someone had texted me that I should read the lyrics of Holy Now, the Course in Miracles lesson brought to mind Peter Mayer, his song Holy Now. And when I was a boy, each week, Sunday, we would go to church, pay attention to the priest, and he would read the holy words. And consecrate the holy bread, and everyone would kneel and bow. Today, the only difference is everything is holy now. So how do we get from point A to point B? How do we get from the place where we've had years, if not decades, of internal verbal and emotional abuse to the place where when we can't keep track, because everything's a miracle. Wine from water is not so small, but an even better magic trick is that anything is here at all. So the challenging thing becomes not to look for miracles, but finding where there isn't one. Holy water, when holy water was rare at best, I barely wet my fingertips. But now I have to hold my breath. It's like I'm swimming in a sea of it. It used to be a world only half there. Heaven can't say, oh, we're all connected. Everything is connected. We're all one mind. So all I have to do is feed my neighbor, and I never have to put any food in my body, and I'll be fine. It doesn't work that way. So at that level of scale, I have to acknowledge, okay, this is better than that. This works out better than that. But that doesn't necessarily mean I have to judge. I have to discern one from the other, but judgment necessitates tension and resistance, and that just adds to conflict. At another level of actuality, if I can't acknowledge wholly, completely, with at a deep, profound level, if I can't acknowledge what has happened, I can't even begin to work with it to try and affect a change. And if I say, this is bad, this is wrong, this shouldn't happen, I'm not even really studying it enough to understand what it is that has happened. And so anything I do to try and change it is going to be adding conflict to conflict. So That's what I was going to say. When people start saying, "But wait a minute, you can't say everything is perfect just because it happened." Well, yeah, I can, and I just did. You don't have to accept it, but
Yeah. I just wanted to chime in with what you were saying and what this today's Course in Miracles lesson is asking us to do. I love the sentence in here where it's talking about Christ's vision, which is asking us to use instead of the body's eyes, and it says it sees no separation, and it looks on everyone, on every circumstance, all happenings and all events without the slightest fading of the light it sees. And when I read that, it did remind me of Byron Katie talking about, a tsunami wiping out a village, and that to her it was, something like that is no less full of light than any other happening, and which I know is very hard to comprehend. But then in the next paragraph,
from the Western mind,
right, and then the next paragraph it talks about, that type of vision requires, and I think you read this, requires but the recognition that the world cannot give anything that faintly can compare with this in value, nor set up a goal that does not merely disappear when this has been perceived. And so this is what we're being asked to give today, and it really, at least this is the way, what I took from it, that we're not asked to look into the world and see if we can see the light that we're being told is really everywhere. We're being asked to give that light to everything that we see, no matter what the body's eyes see. We're being asked to perceive light in everything.
Right, and when you say give it, in essence what that means is see it for what it really is.
But even if my body
is there, the light is
right.
there. It's always there. My body's eyes and the mind that is interpreting the light waves that bounce off of some objects and hit those eyes, that is going to come up with all kinds of judgments. Less than, worse than. But that doesn't change the actual nature of the expression of the creative energy in form, which is without judgment and without imperfection. It's perfect just as it is.
Yeah, so I really got it. What was interesting, even before I read the lesson this morning, when I woke up, the first thought I had was, wow, what a beautiful day. And then the second thought I had was, I can't do anything wrong. And I was like, wow, that's a really nice thought to have. And then I thought about that one some more, and I thought, well, if I can't do anything wrong, no one can do anything wrong. And so then it was so funny when I read this lesson, and it was talking about the script is written, and it's like, well, there it is, And so, yeah, I was off running errands this morning, and as soon as, I found myself, judging someone for something, it's like, that person can't do any wrong, And I realized that I was giving, and I just kept saying, that person is holy. What they're doing is, everything, every circumstance, like it says, has the light of holiness in it. And I just, no matter what my mind was trying to tell me, I just nope. Not going with you. And so, just practicing the lesson, what it's asking us to do. And, it's pretty happy camper running around doing my own.
There's a great song that I think it's great. There's a lovely song that is by Peter Mayer that goes along with your words as you're trying to explain this Course in Miracles lessons today, and the title of the song is Holy Now. And if you haven't heard of that song, you might want to look it up. Look up the lyrics. Peter Mayer, Mayer. The Holy Now song is just, he has some wonderful, wonderful lyrics, and some. If you check into that, the next one I would recommend is My Soul.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah, the one that you're talking about, someone brought it up in my life.
But when I ask my inner child, when I ask my true self,
be in a space of total connected love, and bring those things forward without activating any of those traumatic concepts, those perceptions based in hostility or fear. And I'll just offer that it's pretty amazing. It's a pretty sweet place to be. And it's just like, here we are, just two beings. Our definition of being our created essence. Two beings talking about whatever's in our lives to talk about without arousing hostility or fear. So just put that in the hopper, ask everybody to think about it. Start moving toward opening the space for that to happen in your world. It's a monumental shift of energy and into new spaces of sweetness that are incalculable. And we're still on the chapter Off the Mark from the Aramaic forgiveness process in the book Why Is This Happening to Me Again? And if you're following along, we're on page 77. We've been talking to Richard about the idea. This would actually be a good example for what I was just speaking of, because most people have so many dramas and traumas around the word.
It's already there, and even though if my body's eyes can't see it, I can choose to know that it's there. So, yeah, that was a big thing for me to get this morning, that I actively give that to everything.
You give it in terms of sharing the experience of it. Right? There's this trickiness in trying to express these concepts with our very limited language. Mm-hmm. And so we say, I give this to somebody. Well, so I pick up my pen and I hand it to somebody. No, you're not giving them the light, because the light is all there is. And they can't see it with their body's eyes. So you experience it and you relate to them as you're seeing with spiritual eyes. You're seeing their true nature, and that's how you gift it to them. Right? You gift them the awareness that you are that you're living in the moment. You don't create the light.
That's how I was interpreting it. But I mean, because even if I'm not having an interaction with someone, if I'm just seeing someone from afar, which is what I was doing, mainly today when I was running my errands, I wasn't having interactions with people and sharing.
Yes, you were.
Well,
yes, you weren't having the physical or verbal, but yeah, your energy is interacting with theirs because you're holding them in your mind.
Yeah, that's true. Okay. Yep.
See, that's what's so tricky about this, is that our language doesn't really have these tools for the nuance of this, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is why, our language is so limited. That's why this seems to some people, when they read it, so convoluted, and it might take, even somebody as astute as me 5 or 6 or 7 times reading through this lesson to say, okay, what are they really talking about here? The knowledge that you are a mind in the one mind, that you are purely mind. This is your true essence. And that you're sinless forever and unafraid because you are created out of love. That's what's been given to you, this experience of that truth. And you can't ever lose it, but you can shift your focus of attention away from it. You can focus on something else and believe something else is true about you, but the essence of you is the gift. The experience of the essence of the creative energy expressing in form that you are, that's what's been given to you. Mm-hmm. You've received it all, and that's, you have received it. The evidence of that is that you're in existence.
Right.
Right? So what is it you're giving to somebody else? You're giving them the experience of being in the presence of somebody who experiences them as the truth of what they are and themselves as connected to that, as part of that truth. Mm-hmm. So what we're giving is experience. It's unlearned, untaught, unseen. It's merely there. So our concern in this lesson is with Christ's vision. This we can attain, but this is not the vision of the physical eyes, right? Right? Christ's vision has one law. It does not look upon a body and then mistake it as the Son of creation or the Son of God. It beholds a light beyond the body, an idea beyond what can be touched, a purity undimmed by errors, undimmed by mistakes, undimmed by fearful thoughts, undimmed by the guilt from dreams of sin. The Christ's vision sees all as one. It looks on everyone, on every circumstance, all happenings, all events, and it sees the light brilliantly in all of them. So what we're giving is that we step into that vision and we have the lived in the moment experience of the truth. That's what we're giving. Mm-hmm. So in that sense, if you say we're giving the light of awareness, okay. And if you say we're giving the light, and if you read somewhere where it says you're giving the light, the Western mind thinks, oh, I pick up the light or I make the light and then I give it to somebody. But that misses the point. The point is there is no separation. There is no me here giving to them over there. Mm-hmm. There's a spark of awareness that sees beyond the curtain of the veils that my physical eyes would show me and experiences the truth of our oneness and radiates that in this moment. There's the only gift to be given.
Yeah, and one of the things that's very helpful for me is I just keep reminding myself that I do not live in this body and I do not live in this world. This body, all bodies, the whole world lives in me. It lives in my mind. So that helps me to see how everything is whole and the same, has the same holiness. There can't be, parts that are excluded from that. And, because I say to myself, well, gee, I live in God and God lives in me. It's both. And it's the same for everything. And if I try to exclude anything, then, it has to be 100%. or I'm not going to experience actuality.
Yeah, and then in the moment where you experience actuality, and it is part of, the tsunami coming through the village, or, somebody raping somebody else, rather than raging, my choice is, what am I giving? What am I choosing to focus on and see and experience and extend more of in this moment?
Mm-hmm.
So, do I choose compassion? Do I choose the oneness? Do I choose to see that, there must have been unspeakable pain and suffering in one person in order for them to do unspeakable pain and suffering things to someone else? Or do I set myself up as judge, jury, and executioner, and I say, this is bad, this is wrong, this person is evil, etc.? And those are the only choices we have with our Western mind. And that's why spiritual teachings like this are trying to open us up to a different choice, which is choose only love.
Mm-hmm.
Teach only love in each moment by doing only what the extension of your true nature would do. And it's hard.
And
go ahead.
Well, choose to just completely throw out of your vocabulary words like disaster and terrible and wrong. I mean, if you want to know where you really abide, I mean, those things don't exist. So you can't be acknowledging that, oh, this is a disaster happening over here, and oh, look at this trauma over there. And I mean, if you think those things are real and they're actually disastrous and traumatic, and then you're caught in it.
Yeah, and then you respond with contraction and bitterness and all those negative energetic states.
Yeah, I remember in one of Lillian DeWatter's books, her describing an experience that a friend of hers had, where she was walking like in town or something, and then this accident happened, like at the next intersection, and she, the first thought was, oh no, and then she said, no, wait a minute, where am I? And she reminded herself, she's in heaven. And she just, she established herself there, and then she had her eyes closed for a moment, and then she opened her eyes back up and looked over to where the so-called accident had happened, and people were like picking themselves up off the ground, and but like nothing, no one had gotten hurt, nothing had gotten damaged. It was as if nothing had happened at all. And I read that little story and I thought, oh, okay. So it's all in how we, again, what you're always talking about, how we perceive something. And are we going to label it as an accident, a disaster, a situation in which people could be hurt or killed, things could be damaged? Or are we just going to refuse to accept any of that because we know that it's an illusion?
Well,
that nothing that God has created could possibly be anything other than perfect.
Well, and it happens, and then we create the impact upon ourselves from it by how we choose to interpret and respond to it. So, I mentioned earlier in the intro that I was reading or listening to the Adyashanti, and he was talking about doing basically the very same thing that Michael Singer does and Michael Rice does and coherence therapy does and NET does, and helping people look at what they, and what Diedrich Wolsack does, helping people look at what have they made as a meaning for the life experiences that they've been through. So, he has several incidences where he reports dealing with people who are very, very upset. They're very bitter, they're very negative, they're very convinced that life is bad and unjust, and then he asks them about their story, and their story is that their mother or their father abused them or neglected them, and he has them go back to one of the earliest times that they remembered that, and then here's the image. And the one person was saying, she's 6 years old and she's laying in bed crying, and her mother never comes, and the story that she tells herself from that is that her mother didn't give her what she needed. And based, in her knowledge, her belief is parents are supposed to treat their children gently and give them what they need. So those two things combined, this is what parents are supposed to do, and this is not what my parent did, and that's causing my suffering. And as he has her story and her belief, and then just notice how she feels when she gives that interpretation for this life event, which did happen, and this what should happen. And she notices how tense and painful and distraught she feels when she believes that. And then just say, okay, so this happened, and catch it right before you judge it, but just remember that it happened and notice how that feels. Or question the belief. Well, my belief is that parents should treat their children gently. Clearly, that isn't what my parents believed, because that's not what they did. So if I question my belief and say, okay, well, that's what I believe, but that's not what my parents believed, and can I be okay even though they did what they did? With questioning the beliefs and questioning the shoulds, and time again, people come to see what's happened in their life events as just neutral events. And they wake up and realize, almost all the pain and suffering I've been experiencing for the past umpteen years, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, that I was telling myself happened because this event happened, that the vast majority of that suffering was happening because I keep replaying the event and saying it shouldn't have happened. Mm-hmm. And I keep activating the memory as a trauma because I keep labeling it as something that should not have happened, etc. And it cuts across. I mean, as I mentioned, I've seen it happen at the retreat center at Heartland over and over and over again. People go into a worksheet process, people do a MindShifter process, people do a breathwork process. Nothing has changed in the out. You paid your dues to have those negative thoughts in you, and that's your work, right? Every one of us that has these traumas that as they went in, we interpreted them.
So hateful. What I'm saying is I don't have any hate, but here you arouse, you're the one who's made me hateful. And then I have to make up a whole perceptual world, a lie that shows me that person is the one who made me hateful. When I shift my language to the truth, all of a sudden I get to say, oh my God, this is my hatred. I never wanted to I don't want to deal with this. So as I start to language accurately, I start to see what's in my mind accurately, and that can be pretty traumatic for people who live in a belief system that, it's all about everybody else.
As I said yesterday, it was really, I put off reviewing, the original responsibility communication because I had the suspicion that I would find something very, very deep about myself that I didn't want to face. And so that fear that we have about really knowing ourselves, this is very potent. It's strong. And it was your urging and your support which really got me there, which right now is reminding me of the importance of a support group.
It forced me to become very self-reliant, and there was a lot of growth in that. And so I look back now and I can see that not only was it not a bad thing, but I think it was very helpful.
Odd, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I even told my mother, like, a few years before she passed away, which was just, a few months ago. I thought, she's going to want to know this. Like, that, what a gift it was for me. And because I had never really been able to properly thank her for being my mother, because I just thought she did it all wrong. And after that, everything changed, and I was able to, just really see how much she did love me and how grateful I was for everything that she gave me and the things that she didn't give me that I wanted, and how perfect it all was.
That's big.
Yeah.
Big indeed.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's still remnants left, like especially in my body. But I was able to see how all of that suffering was due to my own misperception and, misunderstanding. And, it's so freeing when you see that.
Well, and that's
anyway.
one of our core observations is that we are creating our experience of life in each new given moment, and we do that actually by what we choose to focus our attention upon. And we've been given the gift of focusing our conscious attention. It's infinite. It belongs to each of us. And, there are some fabulous examples. There's, Nelson Mandela, 26 or 27 years in prison, and he refused to go to hate. There's the story of Roger McGowan, who's sitting on death row in Texas for 20-some years for something he didn't do. And he becomes a spiritual teacher and says, we have the ability to choose our experience of life. And everything in life is a teaching experience. And it isn't just pie-in-the-sky spiritual New Age teaching to say we are creating our experience of life in each moment by what we're choosing to focus our attention on and by the interpretations we give our life experiences. And if we don't like it, we can change it. We can't instantly change every external experience, but we certainly have access to changing the internal experience.
Yeah, I choose whether or not to believe what my mind tells me about situations and things. Just because my mind says this to me doesn't mean that it's true, you know? But it takes a long time before we really start to question the things that, you know, the thoughts that arise.
Yeah, and as we, you know, are taught about in this today's Course in Miracles lesson, it just because my body's eyes and the judgment of what's been conditioned into my brain is showing me something or telling me something's true doesn't mean it's true. And there's another level of seeing or experiencing that we're called to in this work if we'll do these exercises.
Yeah, and if you, another little trick that I use when I remember to is just, you know, I think of myself as the author of the story of, you know, Ellen's life, and so, you know, not only is Ellen, but all of the characters that play a role in Ellen's story have all come from my mind. I wrote the story. And as today's lesson talks about, it's already over. It's like we wrote the story, and now we're sitting down and we're reading it as if we hadn't written it, and we have no idea what's going to happen. But for me to think that anyone in the story is doing something other than what they should be doing, if I recognize that I'm the one that wrote the story, it's absolutely ludicrous.
Absolutely. Agreed. And the more I say they shouldn't be doing this or that, the more I suffer.
Mm-hmm.
The more I create the internal conflict within myself, the restriction, the flow of energy gets restricted. I get tight, I get tense. I initiate what Dr. Sarno calls tension myoneural syndrome, and I experience neck pain or back pain or stomach upset or rashes or autoimmune patterns that they call, you know, autoimmune diseases. And I'm always good to hear from you.
Yeah, thank you. Blessings, you.
All right, blessings. So we have 7 minutes left. Susan, you want to sing us a song, play us a tune on the piano, bring up another topic? Well, it's a pleasure.
Taking responsibility. In my mind, I perceive. I thought I was, blah, 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 whatever it was. So that's all about the mind. And if I can cue into those ways of expressing it, I believe it's going to get me back on track when, like, instead of saying, I thought you were ignoring me, to say, I thought I was being ignored. That was big. Seems so
night
simple.
and day.
Yeah.
I mean, it just totally shifts the output of the mind. Just totally.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
Remembering that the mind is an evidential device. You know, that Harvard research we talked about where they measured in the brain a time frame, about a 25th of a second, where they could measure 10,000 brain cell firings, and in that same time frame, a maximum of 9 bits of data was all that could fit into perception. And which 9 bits of data we're looking at follows a rule, and the rule is language. So my language...
Tune in. All the information for joining us from 6:30 to 9 p.m., either Tuesday or Thursday night, is available at MindShiftersAcademy.org. And so feel free to join us yourself or pass that information along to somebody that you think might be interested. And we will keep on presenting things like Michael Singer and Adyashanti and J.M. from Way of Mastery and All of these things which are right in line with the tools that Michael and Jeannie provide at MindShifters or at whyagain.org. And we're doing that because it is the best way we know to support people in learning and then using tools to improve their quality of life. And when one person's quality of life improves, we all benefit. This is this soup of life, of energy, of love, the creative energy expressing in form that we are all part of, that we're all experiencing, whether we're consciously aware of it or not, and we're all contributing to it, whether we're consciously contributing or not. Heaven's second-rate hand-me-down, but today I walk it with a reverent air because everything is holy now. Read a questioning child's face and say it's not a testament. That would be very hard to say. See another new morning come and say it's not a sacrament. I tell you that it can't be done. This morning, outside I stood and saw a little red-winged bird, shining like a burning bush, singing like a scripture verse. It made me want to bow my head. I remember when church let out. Ooh, how things have changed since then. Everything is holy now. Everything, everything, everything is holy now. So, that's the end of our show. Stick around for Michael and Jeannie for the second hour. I'll remind us all that we come from love. We're made of the stuff we call love. We actually are love, and everything else is false. Welcome, Jeannie Rice.
Thank you. That's one of my favorite songs, so I think that's awesome. Thank you for reading it.
Oh, you're welcome. And if you like that one, I mentioned it earlier in the show, you would also really enjoy the lyrics for My Soul from him, from Peter Mayer.
Okay.
All right.
That's
have
good.
a lovely show.
Thank you.